channel. My name is Stacey Flowers and I am a student of Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University and on a journey to become 100% debt-free. My current debt is over $180,000 and I currently work part-time, earning anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 and part-time in my company. In this video, I'm going to be answering the most frequently asked questions over the last 7 days. So if you are interested in that, please keep watching. All right, so first things first, I just want to say an incredible, huge thank you to every single one of you all who are following this journey and who have taken the time to write something in the comments or like one of my videos. You guys have no idea what that means to me. First of all, my love language is words of affirmation. So when I see your words in the comments, it just feels like I am surrounded by love. So I deeply appreciate you all taking the time out of your day to not only watch my video, but to actually comment on how it's impacting you or ask questions or, just any sort of thing that you are writing down. And that includes you naysayers as well, because I understand that that's just a part of building a community. So you don't know that you're loving on me, but thank you for loving on me in the way that I love to be loved. So secondly, the thing that I wanted to say is that I really wanted to make an effort to respond to every single comment that I ever got on my YouTube channel, but just within the last 24 hours, my last video got 15,000 views, and with 15,000 views, I want to say at the time of this recording, there's over 100 comments, and you guys know that my mental, emotional, physical health is important to me. And in terms of just balancing time and making sure that I'm able to just get up and do my part-time job and do some of the other things that I'm responsible for, I realize that I'm not going to be able to respond to every comment, but I do want to acknowledge you because I cannot emphasize how impactful your comment and your like is to just me and this journey, and it's so encouraging and it's so supportive, and I'm so eternally grateful. And so what I thought that I would do so that you could be acknowledged even further is to round up the most frequently asked questions, get those answered, and then as I'm going through doing my best to like and heart the comments that are really encouraging, and I will still do my best to write a response, but there's not like a robot or a team responding to your comments. I'm actually reading and responding to every single comment, and I love doing that, but I understand that there has to be priorities if I want to begin work in my company and I want to maintain some balance. So the number one food question is, are you vegan? Are you vegetarian? The answer is no. I love meat, particularly steak and salmon. At this time, meat just doesn't fit into my budget, and so I've learned to do without it, with the exception, because I'm not perfect. I don't ever want to give you guys the impression that I never go over budget, and I feel like in the budget report cards I show you that I go over budget, but especially just with this transition and moving, I've had pizza. It was a shrimp and hamburger pizza a couple of times. I've had Lim's barbecue. A lot of that stuff has been off camera just because while I'm also consuming that, moving is a very difficult thing for me, and I'm realizing that, and so I'm not capturing every single bite that I have, but I do want you guys to know that I eat meat. Now, as far as dairy and eggs, I'm choosing not to include those into my diet, not for budgeting reasons, but just because I don't digest eggs very well and I don't digest dairy very well. So if I'm going to do it, I'll make a conscious effort to say, okay, that you're either going to be sluggish or you're going to be more fatigued or whatever. So if I'm going to eat a pizza, I'm not going to have an allergic reaction to a pizza, but I do understand that I'll be much more lethargic than if I have a kale salad. That goes into the second question, with so many people asking or so many people commenting on my calorie count and asking me, am I eating enough? Am I hungry? Am I trying to lose weight? And I can assure you at 1000%, I am not hungry. And I mean, as of the recording of this, I was trying to go back to my natural weight, but I've been eating on a slim budget for quite some time, and it had nothing to do with me wanting to lose weight. What I'll say is the reason why I'm able to I'm able to eat what appears to be a smaller calorie count, because I can guarantee you that it's not. And this is how I know that it's not, because if I wasn't eating enough calories, I wouldn't have gained weight, right? Like, there you go. Like, you can't gain weight when you're not eating enough calories. And I gained a significant amount of weight that put me up one pant size. And it wasn't until I was like thrifting for larger pants that I said, okay, all right. We need to think about some of these veggies that you're eating, or some of these bowls that you're making. And so it's only now that I'm wanting to be more at my natural weight that I'm actually paying a little bit more attention to how I'm creating my Buddha bowls. Because before, I'm like, this is all veggies. I can eat what I want to eat. I can eat how much I want to eat. And I'm never, eating a small amount. Like, I'm eating a fairly large bowl. And I'm packing on like the beans and the rice and the veggies and stuff like that. And so I just encourage you all to realize that, like, I am trying to capture honesty. And in me capturing honesty, I'm not going to pretend like I'm eating a balanced meal every single day, but I'm also not going to deprive myself or starve myself to make a video. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm 1000% getting enough calories. I am 1000% satisfied, specifically my taste buds, with the food that I'm eating. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. And how I got to the place where I could find maybe a leaner grocery variety, but also still be satisfied from a calorie perspective and a nutritional perspective, is I did something called an elimination diet, so that I could figure out what foods bother me or are difficult for me to digest. And so, for example, you guys see that I always get sweet potatoes. Well, most of you all know that regular, like, white potatoes are less expensive than sweet potatoes, but I found out that I have a little bit of a sensitivity to white potatoes. And so when I cut those out of my diet, guess what? I had much less inflammation, I had much less stress, etc., etc. And it doesn't mean that I can't have a white potato, but it means that I just choose a sweet potato over white potato because it doesn't have as strong of a reaction in my body. And I will tell you, it's funny, because if you knew me growing up, you knew that anytime if I ever went to like Burger King or something like that, or if there was a choice between McDonald's and Burger King, I would go to Burger King and I would order the onion rings because they had an option. And I just used to think it's because I like onion rings. But what I realized is that even as a young adult, a young teenager, I was attempting to avoid the fries. I wasn't doing it consciously, but like physically there was something that was saying, okay, avoid this particular food, choose this, because onion rings, it's not common for a teenager to be like, oh, I'll have onion rings instead of French fries. But that's what I would order all the time. And now as an adult, having gone through this elimination diet, I realized that it's because intuitively my body was like, hey, we don't like this, so can you stop eating it? And I finally got to the point where I was like, oh, okay, I'll eat that in moderation. And so I think that I derive a massive amount of taste bud satisfaction and body fulfillment because I know what foods work for my body. I'm not vegetarian, I'm not vegan, I'm not gluten-free, I don't have any dietary restrictions placed on me by a medical profession. It's just a choice that I've made now that I know how my body responds to certain foods. So the next question is a moving question. How much does it cost for rent? The rent in my new place is $845. That does not include utilities. And so with utilities, that's an additional $75. And that is almost double what I was paying before for rent and utilities, like a rent and utility bundle. And a part of that is, one, I'm living on my own. And two, the home that I was living in before for the last 15 months, it was an Airbnb. I was meant to stay there for 6 weeks. And 6 weeks turned into an extended stay because I became sick unexpectedly. And then my sublease was up at the end of the year, and I fully intended to stay in that space, fully decorated, probably until I at least got to 50% of my debt being paid off. But that was not something that was available to me anymore. And so I got to make the decision to move. Thank goodness for me having a part-time income. And so I decided to move. Why did you decide to move? So I talked a little bit about this in my vlog. One of the reasons I decided to move is because my old place was incredibly dark. And it was the perfect resting place, but it wasn't a place for me to be able to thrive because it was hand selected for me to rest in that space. And I did a lot of amazing things there, but I wasn't going to be able to go to my next season from that place. Additionally, so it was an extended Airbnb, and my original host, it shifted management. So like I had a host, and then with that host, I created a sublease, and I was living out my sublease, and most of my communication was with that host. Well, my host lived out of town, and so she decided to ask a family member or two family members to manage her property. And once the property shifted over into her family members managing the property, they were not as respectful as my original host. They felt like because it was their property that they could show up unannounced whenever they wanted to. They were not very clear about the expectations with respect to me living in the space, and sort of like me moving around furnishings. So if you look at the vlog, you'll see that there are orange curtains in the vlog because those were the original curtains that were there. But if you look at all of my videos prior to the vlog, they're kind of like cream curtains, and my books are all in the windowsill because I had been living there for over a year, and so I wanted to make myself comfortable and make it sort of my space, and or make it feel as comfortable as possible for me. And the change in management had an issue with me removing furniture pieces like that, and there was just a lot of popping up and a lot of things that I felt were very intrusive, and I am too old to be disrespected, and I am unwilling to live in a place where someone doesn't want me to live. And it got to the point where I believed that the second host or managing people did not want me to stay in that space. That the roommate who was sharing the space with me, she was originally supposed to stay for 3 weeks, and she wound up staying December, January, February, March, April. She wound up staying for 6 months, and she had a close personal relationship with the second management company, and so that turned into something that was also a little bit awkward because I felt like in this space I wasn't able to come home and be comfortable without someone sort of watching me. Not that I was doing anything, but it just, that feeling of like, it's just uncomfortable. So it was really a vibe, and I cannot thrive in situations where I feel uncomfortable and intuitively I know something, is off. And I kid you not, like I didn't even know when it shifted management, but as soon as it shifted management, like I just was like, just so thrown by the whole experience. And in the end, I made the right decision. And I had mentioned in the vlog that I was going to share something with you all. And so I gave my apartment complex I gave my previous living space a full 30 days notice that I was moving, and the new management, they knew the date that I was moving, and I was trying to set an appointment time for us to do a walkthrough just because they were so terribly concerned with like their fixtures and what I did with their stuff. And so I wanted to do a walkthrough where we would be able to be there together. And so I said, I'm moving on this particular date. And the morning of that date, right around like 9 o'clock in the morning, I got a text message from the new management company, and they were just like, I'm assuming all of your stuff is gone. I'm changing the locks. No. First it was, I'm not available at the time to do the walkthrough. This is the time I'm available. I'm like, I'm not available at that time. And they're like, that's fine. You don't need to be there. I'm changing the locks at 2 o'clock. And I'm like, you can't change the locks at 2 o'clock. I still need to get my things. And then the response was, I'm assuming all of your stuff is gone. You said you were going to be moving today. And so my response was, it's 9:30 in the morning. I haven't even picked up my keys to the new place. Like, I don't, I've never been in a situation where the day you said you were moving, the management company communicated with you at 9:30 a.m. the expectation that all of your things would be removed and that they were changing the locks on their time schedule, not your time schedule. And, that was very like, it was affirming because I was like, I had a feeling you didn't want me to be here. I didn't know it was as serious as waking up at 9 o'clock in the morning and sending me this text message. But also I had paid for that day and a couple of days after that. So I was also very taken aback by like the urgency of, you need to be out of our space. And I'm like, the vibe that you felt that this particular new management did not want you there was 100% accurate, and you made the right decision for you. And so that is a very long explanation to say I moved because the the way that I felt in that space and the amount of disrespect that I suddenly begun to experience, I was unwilling to live in a circumstance like that, and so I made the best decision for me, and you know, and now I'm here, and I love it, and you know, it was just time. It was time for a season transition, if you will. So the next question that came up is, do you eat fruit? And the answer is yes. It goes back to the elimination diet that I explained to you earlier. There are a lot of fruits that I don't like. Like, I don't like melon. And so like watermelon, cantaloupe, like a lot of those fruits, I don't like them. I don't have a reaction to them. I just don't like them. They taste like slimy to me, so I don't eat those. But I have a little bit of a sensitivity to bananas, so I don't eat bananas very often. My teeth are a little bit sensitive, so I don't eat apples very often. But you will notice in the upcoming grocery hauls that there'll be a little bit more fruit, like pineapple, because I love some pineapple. It's delicious. So yeah, I definitely eat fruit. The fruits that were available just weren't appetizing to me. Question is, what is your credit score? And the last time I looked at my credit score, it was 535, and I have no shame in sharing that because my credit score is not my priority. Eliminating my debt is my priority, and I think that my credit score 100% reflects my credit behavior over the last 2 years, or well, the last 15 months. And what I mean by that is that I didn't work for nearly an entire year, and so every single debt that I owed on, I defaulted on. My car was repossessed in November, and so that credit score reflects the piss poor credit behaviors I was displaying. And so the credit score thing came up quite a bit because of how I was able to move with a lower, you know, how I was able to get a new place with a lower credit score. And the short answer is that there is no credit problem, in my opinion, that cash can't solve. These are my choices. Emphasis on my choice. I am in no way, shape, or form encouraging you to do that, but I will say that I'm the type of person who believes that everything is possible. And so yeah. What does your son eat? He eats the food that his father prepares. I am very fortunate to be in a co-parenting situation where my son's father has assumed, but my son's father takes care of my son exceptionally well. He is an amazing human being, and I'm so grateful for him. But my son eats very well. When he visits, I will increase my food budget to accommodate him, but he's a healthy, normal 15-year-old boy who basically eats every single thing in sight. And I think that if he was living with me full time, my budget would look different. Would I still be much more conservative than the average American in my food budget? Absolutely. But would it look different? Absolutely. But the benefit and the blessing of being in the season that I'm in right now and taking advantage of the season that I'm in right now is that I can be conservative in this particular area and also incredibly satisfied. The next question is, why won't you go on government assistance? What about food stamps? What about pantries? What about, you know, food sharing? What about all of these other options to get assistance for your medical and for your food cost? And I answered this question a little bit in my first Q&A on the video, but it is worth reiterating again. I am making a personal choice to not get on government assistance. And the reason why I am doing that is because I do not personally believe that I qualify for government assistance. And the reason I am disqualified from government assistance, is because, one, I am making the choice to work part-time. And I feel like any person who makes the choice to work a limited amount of time, when they are educated enough to be able to work more, they are physically able to work more, and they are making a choice. They do not have the right, nor do they qualify to then go on government assistance to supplement any area of their life. That is a personal opinion. Now, with that being said, even if I wasn't making the choice, I still would not go on government assistance. And the reason I would not go on government assistance is because for the most part, I've been on and off government assistance for most of my life. And then as a young mother, I became a mom when I was 17 years old, a senior in high school. I made a decision at that point when I needed government assistance to just sort of stabilize that I would not go back on government assistance and after I earned my bachelor's degree, because I felt like a bachelor's degree in America was enough education for me to get a job to be able to cover my expenses. What I did not take into consideration is that one, a bachelor's degree doesn't necessarily translate into money, and two, that because I was not raised to understand things like medical insurance, co-pays, the true cost of food, because when you buy food on food stamps, you don't understand the true cost of food. Sometimes we lived in assisted housing, so you don't understand the true living cost. So there was a lot of paradigm shifting that I had to do, but my commitment to honor my choice that I made as a young adult is something that remains the same to this day. I would not be a good citizen, in my opinion. And when I mean citizen like so many people suggest government assistance like the government is a business. The government is not a business. The government gets money from taxpayers. So me going on government assistance is me making the society and the country that I live in responsible for my medical, food, housing, clothing, etc. And it is not their responsibility after I have earned the degrees that I've earned. That it's not their responsibility to take care of me. That's a problem that people sort of have, that thought process. So I hope that gives a little bit more perspective into my personal beliefs about why I am choosing not to go on government assistance in this particular season of my life where I have a very small income. The next question that comes up is, why don't you shop at Aldis? And the truth is I love Aldis. I actually, a few years ago, I had a boutique HR consulting company, and I actually designed a 12-month leadership training program for Aldis that is still in, people still use it within the company today. So I'm very familiar with the brand. I'm very familiar with the products that they have. I understand that they're non-GMO and they are organic. If you look at my grocery haul, one, I do not eat very much prepackaged foods. Aldi has prepackaged foods. Two, I don't eat very much fruit. Aldi has a lot of fruit. Three, most of my grocery budget consists of beans. I like the beans that they have at Whole Foods. And for me personally, it doesn't make sense to opt to choose to go to Aldi's to purchase food from there that I don't consume because they don't have the food product there that I consume. Now, do they have beans? Yes. But can I buy the beans in bulk the way that I can buy them at Whole Foods? No. And that's primarily what I'm getting from Whole Foods are my beans and my turmeric. I get a few items from Whole Foods, and those few items that I get, I like the standard that is produced at that store. And so I don't shop at Aldi's because I'm not interested in getting more food for the sake of having more food. And I understand that many people are suggesting it because the price point is lower and I could get more food. But the issue with getting more food when you don't need more food is that for me personally, it's wasteful because what's going to happen is it's going to expire. And then when it expires, I either have two choices. I can throw it away and waste a ton of food, or I can eat it when it's a little past its expiration date and potentially be pouring poison into my body. And I'm not doing any of that. And for me, it doesn't, someone had mentioned, you eat with your eyes, and 100%, like I will decorate a plate before I, consume on it. But I don't eat with my eyes in the sense that I have to have a lot of things in order for me to feel like there's a lot of food. And I feel like, people will see you spend $50 a month in groceries and tell you you're spending too much money because you shop at Whole Foods. It's like, for the people who are suggesting that, you guys aren't paying attention to the fact that I only spend $50 a month. It doesn't matter if I spend that $50 at Whole Foods or if I spend that $50 at Aldi's. The point is that I only spend $50 a month. And the celebration is around the fact that I'm able to maintain that while shopping at the stores that has the food that I like to consume. And I would encourage people who have an issue with Whole Foods to figure out what that's about, because it's not about the amount of money that I spend, because I spend $50 a month. So people who are like, you're ridiculous, I'm like, you have an issue with Whole Foods. I have no idea what Whole Foods has done to you, but I spend $50 a month, which people like, and this is what I mean by blinders, right? Whether they're an emotional blinder, they're a financial blinder, we have blinders, and we will say, this person isn't budget savvy because they shop at Whole Foods. That doesn't make any sense if this person is spending $50 a month. Makes no sense whatsoever. So that is the long story for why I do not shop at Aldis. They don't have the brand of foods and the type of foods that I prefer to consume. So that brings me into the question of why don't you buy in bulk? And the short answer for why I don't buy in bulk is because I am one person. Buying in bulk, granted I had a roommate before and I'm in a studio now, but even if I was in small space living, I still wouldn't buy in bulk because I don't like consuming expired food, I don't like wasting food, and I am one person. Personally, for me, it doesn't make sense to, you know, grocery shop at Costco for one person. It doesn't make sense for me to buy spices in bulk for one person because I'm not going to consume 2 pounds of turmeric in probably a month or a year. I'm not going to do that. I'm not a restaurant. Like, I'm one person, and I like to have the freshest foods on hand as possible. And I like actually going to the grocery store. I like the process of every single month being able to go into the store and saying, hey, this is what I'm getting, because, you know, when you're budgeting and you're budgeting as conservatively as I am, you are limiting a lot of your activities quite a bit to cut down on spending. And there's a point where that becomes like depressing and it becomes like, you know, isolating, and I don't want to feel like that. And so every single month being able to go into the store and, you know, see other people shopping, it's a lifestyle choice, right? Like, one day I won't have debt. One day I'll be making over $1,500 a month, and I want to be in the healthy habit of going to the grocery store to purchase food items. And so some of the non-bulk shopping is really just because it would be 1,000% wasteful. But the other part of it is, this is a lifestyle choice. I don't want to cut myself off from activities that support my overall health and well-being.